Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're in episode 101. My name is Craig Perales, and joining me is my brother, Gino Perales. How are you doing, sir?
Glad to be aboard, sir. Congrats on episode 100. Big milestone. We don't want to underplay that at all.
Big.
I respect.
Yeah, thank you. Normally, Andrew would be with us, but he's had some things pop up, so he wasn't able to make this week's episode, which is fine. That's why we always got Gino, to come in, throw the Hail Mary quarterback pass, and hopefully Last Call Gaming can catch it, run with it, and make that touchdown. So, glad to have you with us, my good man. So, guys, if you are new to the show, let's take a quick moment to, if you can, to like the video, leave a comment if you can. We'd like to interact with you guys, and definitely hit that subscribe button. You guys can also follow us on all these social medias that you can see pop up if you want to. And if you guys are listening to the audio only version of this podcast, do us a favor and just leave a review, and that way we can kind of find a broader audience so more people can hear these glorious voices. So normally when we start our podcast, we like to have a drink of the week, and since Gino hasn't been on in a while, he took the liberty of grabbing a beer, and he couldn't pick a more harder German beer to pronounce. So what we are drinking, guys, today is, let's see what we got here. This is the Konig Ludwig Weissbier. It's a 5.5% alcohol. It's categorized as a Hefeweizen, and it is made in Konig Ludwig Schlaules Brewery, Kaltenberg.
That 5 times fast.
Yeah, if I butchered that to any German listeners, I am sorry. But I don't know. I always love a good beer with someone like history, and you can see like they have this like nice coat of arms.
Yeah, it's solid.
It's a good beer. What stood out to you? Just picking a random, or
usually when we go to that store, they have a bunch of imported stuff. I've last couple times I've been there, I started at the list and I've been cruising right and just picking stuff I haven't seen, haven't tried it. It was the next one on the list, so I just picked it right up.
Well, I gotta say, they're going down smooth, and hopefully as smooth as this podcast.
Yeah, it has a very good taste to it. I don't know. I've had some Hefeweizens that... Usually Hefeweizens are good. I've had some ones that are okay. This one seems pretty solid.
Nice. So, guys, this is the part of the show where we do What Are You Up To? Where we take a minute to kind of tell you what we've been playing, what we've been watching, if we got any cool, endeavors coming up. So, I will go first. I have been watching, I'm still running on Big Bang, and I gotta say, I'm on the last season. I thought that was 11. I think there's 12 seasons, and I just appreciate old school shows that went 23 episodes a season. Like, you don't see that anymore. Like, That's unheard of. So, when I'm like on season 9 last, a couple weeks ago, and then 10, 11, it's like, you gotta remember, those are 23, 22-minute shows. So, it's been really good.
Quality, too. Yeah. It wasn't washed down.
Yeah, really, really good how it's going. But the show that Gino and I think have both seen so far, and we'll probably each touch on, is the What If, which is Marvel's new show on Disney+. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with the What If, because it is based on comic books, essentially what it is a different timeline where a certain event happened to another character or scenario. So it'd be like, what if Aunt May died instead of Uncle Ben in Spider-Man and things like that. So the trailer came out, and it does show a lot of things with like Iron Man and with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Vision and things like that. But the one they started with, because if you were a critic and you got to review it, you actually got to see the first 3 episodes. But if you're just a fan like we are, you only got to see the first one, which they started with Agent Carter, which is now going to replace Captain Carter. And I gotta say, man, this first episode is as hyped as I was for it. Just was weak. It was a simple, because all they really did was just take out Steve Rogers, plug in Agent Carter, and nothing really changed. A little bit of maybe something happened to somebody, or what happened with Steve Rogers, and we can get into that in a second, but nothing changed in the storyline. The what ifs are supposed to be, well, what, how would it change everything? All that happened was now she's Captain America.
Yeah.
What would you think?
The pros on it is I thought it looked really good. I mean,
I feel like the animation.
It looked like a comic book got penned to a cartoon. Like, the animation was really, really good. And I like the fact that they always introduce multiverse concept. It explains the Watcher, these are my stories and this is what happens. I didn't really think about it. I mean, they're back in the day, so I don't know how much different stuff could be, being a human, just being a different super soldier. She's British, so it's it's not in America, which is a little bit different. So I don't know if we'll get another episode of that, or if it skips to different events every time. Or
I think every episode will be a new scenario. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, when you look at the other one that I think they had planned, is like, what if Spider-Man was Doctor Strange's powers? You know what I mean? That's extremely different. Where this was literally just like, okay, instead of Steve Rogers, it was her. Yeah. So I'm not saying it was bad.
Well, I thought the episode was weak.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was weak.
I did think it was weak.
If you're looking at what Marvel's been pumping out with their Disney Plus episodes, Loki, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, for this being their newest one, it was easily the weakest. And I don't know because a lot of people stay up till midnight to watch these shows. Mm-hmm. I would say maybe watch it the next day. I don't think this one is worth staying up until midnight to watch it. I mean, at least if we're speaking off the first episode, I thought it was very lackluster. I mean, not bad, just it wasn't, oh my god, it's the new Loki episode. It was just like, oh, it's...
Without giving stuff away, there were just a couple things in it I didn't care for. I thought overall it was good, but I don't know. A couple things in there I just didn't care for, and I think well, wait, I'm not going to give up on it. I definitely like the concept of what it's doing, because I love the what if stuff. I own a few of them too, so... but yeah, for a first episode, it was okay.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed is, and especially if you look at like the IMDb voice cast, there's a lot of like actual voice, like Sebastian Stan comes back and doing his voice, but then there's also a lot of people that don't do their voices. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of curious how they did that, because like Chris Evans isn't Steve Rogers, but
they have Sebastian Stan
is Bucky.
Tucci's in there. I was looking up.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
They couldn't afford Evans.
You think he's Steve Primetime? Primetime Ev? And outside of that, so that's what I've been watching, and I would suggest you guys check it out, but don't sit till midnight.
It's worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch.
And then outside of, so what I'm playing is, I just finished The Ascent. I think I was talking about it last week. This is the cyberpunk game from Neon Giant. It's a good game in terms of like, I needed something that I didn't really have to pay much attention to inside of just shooting and listen to like a podcast or watch a show. So I really don't know what the game's about. I didn't really listen to any of like the storyline. I kind of just skipped it. So I don't know. It didn't seem to really capture my attention. That's why I kind of put it off. But the gameplay was fun, and leveling up and beating it was cool. But the game that just was on Game Pass is a game called Dodgeball Academia, developed by Pocket Trap and published by Humble Games. And this is an interesting one because how they're labeling it is called a sports RPG. And I don't know if this is the first of its kind, or maybe there's other games like this that I've never seen, or maybe haven't even been introduced to the West. But it's literally like a dodgeball stadium where you can run around. I'm on chapter 2 out of, I think it's 8 chapters. You level up, you gain abilities, you find equipment to pump your characters up, you find certain items that your characters either like or love to heal them and whatnot. But the combat is literally in real time, moving around, throwing dodgeballs at people. But it's still JRPG to the terms where, like, if you have to run to go to the school for your next quest, and there's somebody blocking your way, and it's like Pokemon, and you run in front of them, it stops, and you have to battle them. So it's really fun. Like, if you guys get a chance to check it out, I'm having a blast. It is, and it's so JRPG. Like, they've got so many, like, there's like this guy with a balloon head, there's a guy with a block head, there's like a vampire. So you've got all these colorful cast of characters. But so far for me, it's been really, really fun to play. So what else were you watching, Gino? And then get into what you've been playing.
So what I was watching is I did just finish Loki. Finally, it took me forever to finish it. Interesting, another multiverse concept, which I enjoy those kind of shows. Nothing to give away, but if you haven't watched Loki, definitely watch it. Definitely great. Watch the first episode of that. Playing. So finally beat Mass Effect 1. So if you are a fan of the series, I highly recommend go back and do the remaster. So good. It's great to go back into that world, that lore, the exploring. 1 is probably the most tedious of the 3 games because they have the fucking the vehicle that you got to drive around in, but the story is so good and your character still transfers over. So I highly recommend playing it if you like it. And what I have been playing besides that, if on my phone, Magic the Gathering Arena, I finally got back into. So we'll go through bursts. Like, I play Magic a lot. I'll stop. Something will draw me back in. So Magic the Gathering Arena, developed by Wizards of the Coast, came out in 2018. We used to play it on the laptop. You can actually play it on your phone now, which is how I have been playing it. And the app runs smoothly. And it's, what brought me back in is they did a new set, Forgotten Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. So they actually did a D&D set into Magic, which was super cool because I read a lot of R.A. Salvatore books, which like maybe 20 of them. There's a lot more than that. But they had really cool characters like Drizzt and Brunor and Lolith.
And we just beat Dark Alliance. We actually got to play those characters.
So to see them team up and actually make that work and have a set come out is awesome. And the good thing about the app is you don't have to pay money for anything. Like, you can grind, you can do everything, you can build your decks. But I've been doing a lot of drafts lately. I think that's a really fun aspect of it. It puts everyone kind of on an even playing field. You're not playing some super powered deck. Everybody, if you don't know what a draft is, there's a certain pack pool, there's a certain amount of players. You pull a card and it passes. And I've just been doing a ton of that, having a lot of fun. I watch Nikolai Bolas and Jim Davis MTG for some good strats. And dude, it's all encompassing, man. I mean, you can just play forever on that kind of stuff when the app runs that smooth.
Yeah, because we'll be playing Xbox and like I'm always looking. I'm like, hey, are you on? And I was like, no, I'm drafting. I'm going 7-0.
I'll jump on a headset and then I'll do my draft. And we have a local card shop, and I'm really trying to jump back out there. But the convenience of being able to play whoever, whenever, and it's so smooth, it just makes it really enjoyable.
Yeah. So if you guys got a chance to play some card games of Magic the Gathering, the D&D set is now out, and you can play. I like that you can play it on your phone. Because Grayson's mainly on your tablet, right? Is that why you're not playing on your tablet?
No, he jumps on my phone too a lot. But yeah, he has my iPad. I do that.
Nice. So, guys, jump down to the comments below. Let us know what you've been up to. Let us know what you've been playing. Let us know if there's a game we should be checking out or any movies or shows that you've been watching that we need to see. So, guys, with that being done and being out of the way, let's move into our first story of the day. And that is that Diablo 2 Resurrected beta is out now, and the game is still set to release on September 23rd, but the open beta, which is going to be open for everyone, is going to run from August 20th to the 23rd. But if you pre-purchase the game, and there's a couple other ways you can do it. You can get some codes and get it, but the easiest way was to pre-purchase the game, and you get the early beta that's running from August 13th through August 17th. Now, just a couple of quick hiccups. There's no beta on the Switch. If you have Xbox, it's required that you have Xbox Live for the early access, but not the open beta. It's not required for early access or open beta for the PS Plus, but you still need to have. But it won't let you do the multiplayer. So there's a lot of weird hiccups when it came to the console aspects. But if you're on PC, it seemed to be pretty the best
version. Playing the beta is probably going to be the computer.
So I will say this: Blizzard and Activision are under a lot of fire right now. They're in a lawsuit right now by the state of California for what's been happening in their workplace practices. A lot of people have been saying they're going to start boycotting or ban some of these games like Diablo, World of Warcraft, and Call of Duty. That's fine, and that's too big of a topic to get into now. And the easiest thing to say is speak with your wallet. And we'll speak with ours and feel how you need to feel. So we got Diablo 2. That's a game that Gino and I played as kids. We were always going to get this game. So
nothing's stopping me.
Yeah, and we review games now. We have a show about it. So we are going to move forward with this. If it's something that you guys dislike, by all means, do what you got to do. And if you don't want to support them, don't support them. But this is a game Gino and I loved back in the day. So it was something we were going to play, and we've been playing it, and we've had a lot of fun. So I just want to put that little note on there before we move forward that we do recognize that there are a lot of hardships going on with Blizzard, but that didn't stop us from playing a game that we enjoyed as kids back in 2000. So with that being said, let's move a little forward, and that is that Blizzard hasn't been known to do the best remasters of games, so some people were nervous when they started hearing about it, but it was kind of set aside when they knew that Vicarious Visions is actually the one that is remastering this game. And they were coming off the success of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game and Crash Bandicoot, which were both very well received. So before we dive into kind of what the game was, let's start with just looking at the cinematics and the actual vision of what the gameplay looks like. It's gorgeous. There's a nice video on YouTube by, I think it's GameSpot, that kind of shows them side by side, and you almost kind of forget that games used to look like that. Like, because when you look at this new one, man, even though it's a remaster, this looks like it could be something from a current, next gen game. So just glancing at that, because we were looking at it and we're like, man, you almost, it was kind of like blowing your mind. They're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Even games 10 years ago looked just extremely dated. What were your first impression?
21 years ago.
Oh, 21 years ago. I'm sorry, did I say 10? Yeah.
I mean, it looked great at the time when you're playing it, but it's so nice to see how far advanced we've come with these graphics. I mean, you can tell that like that was an old PlayStation game. Like this is night and day. It looks like a movie.
Yeah.
Like basically, if they wanted to take those graphics and do a story, like that could be a movie. It was so well done. The voice acting is amazing too, and I think they used a lot of the original stuff. Stunning.
Say very stunning. And yeah, again, this is a remaster, so I love that we're living in this world where these remasters can come out and look as good as they do. So we'll just kind of go real quick over the basics, and then we'll kind of get into what the gameplay was. So starting out in this beta, you can play 5 of the 7 classes that they have for the game. So the playable characters are going to be the Amazon, the Barbarian, the Sorceress, the Druid, the Paladin, and Gino and I played the Paladin, Gino played the Druid. The 2 characters that aren't able on the beta, but you can play when it comes out, is going to be the Necromancer and the Assassin. What you can play in this beta is going to be all of Act 1 and all of Act 2, which is pretty impressive because in each of these acts, there's about 6 big main quests that you can do. So it is kind of a lot to play and kind of mess around with. And one of the big drawbacks is, and like a lot of betas, is any progression you make in this game, it's not going to roll over to the actual game when you buy it. So, him and I were looking at it. We're like, well, let's play it, but like, let's just, get as far as we can because we're going to have to redo all this stuff anyway. So, Gino, you're a big fan of Diablo 2. I know that you played a lot of it. You played a lot of Diablo 3. What kind of stood out to you? What can you tell these people about the beta and what they can look forward to? Some of your pros.
Definitely, yeah. We'll definitely start with the pros. Besides the game looking gorgeous night and day, you have that to look forward to. The new classes are cool because the original one only started with 5. They give you 7 here. So as a remaster, to add 2 new classes with new skills and stuff is always a plus, I think. And they added some really cool classes. The one huge thing though is you have a bigger stash bag that you can address. So if you're picking up items and stuff, back in the day you'd have to hide items or something. So Diablo 2 was built for multiplayer where Diablo 1 was not. So what's going to happen is you might run into a game where you have people coming in, and back in the day you would have to, if you found a good item but you didn't have a stash, you would try and hide it. You don't have to do that now. They give you a bigger inventory, but they also give you a shared inventory. So if you go to your personal stash, you can stick it in there, and you can actually share it between your characters, where back in the day, you'd have to drop it and then pick it up with someone else. So that has been amazing. You can do auto gold pickup is a big quality of life improvement that you can do. Items. You used to have to click a button to have them shine up so you can kind of see where they were at. Now you can auto do it, so you can see everything that falls, which is a huge. You don't realize you miss it, or that you don't have it until you have it and you can't see it.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, didn't we always have that when it popped up? It's like, no, I'm like, well, I can't go back.
It's like Halo running. Like you play Halo 2 again and you can't run. It's like those little things that you think you've always had that aren't there. But that's what I'm saying. This game's 21 years old. It's not a remake. It's a remaster. So they kept it. That's just one of the things.
Love it.
The big thing that we didn't really get to notice, but as doing research, is there's no restrictions on what server you play. So a lot of times, especially with Elder Scrolls, when you pick your character, North America or Europe, that character is per the server and you can't switch. This one's not going to have restrictions. So if you have friends in other countries and you want to play on the UK server, you can play North America. I can play my North American character and then drop to UK and play the same character, which is huge. Most games have never done that, don't do that. So it's really a cool little thing that you can pick up on and play with.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. So even like what Gino's saying, some of those things you don't notice that it was missing are there now, and it's great. I thought the game ran extremely smooth. I have been seeing some people report some bugs, but him and I were playing, and it was really cool. We got to jump in with some, I think it stacks with 8 different people that you can play with. You can run around, you could do all your missions. We were playing with certain people that would go do one thing, and then Gino and I would go and do another. So, I mean, with everything the game's adding, I think we're going in a direction where this is going to be a fairly good, popular game.
Yeah, the cool thing was that we had 8 people on the screen, and me and him were like, well, we just want to finish this mission. So we went and did it, and all these other people were doing that. When we came back, they opened portals to these other quests. And we're like, well, let's jump in this portal, and we'll go to that. So even though you're in a group of 8, and normally that means, hey, we all have to go do this one thing, it's completely free. Like, me and him did our whole thing while these people... So I thought that was a really cool aspect of it as well. Like, you're not restricted by maps or where you can go just because you're in a party with other people.
So we talk about some of the pros, and the game runs smooth. What would you say have been the negatives that we kind of experienced playing together? What stood out to you?
So the first and foremost, the most negative thing is, and I don't know if it's a beta thing, because the features in there, it just didn't work. So I think when we play the actual game, it won't be an issue. But you cannot send an invite to someone in your friends list to get added to the group.
Or at least we couldn't. I don't know if you could, but when we did it, he tried it, I tried it, we did it multiple times. It just kept saying unable. And a lot of the features, it said it was so, if you could, we never were able to do it.
If you could, you can't, you didn't, so you don't. The only thing we could do is what we had to do, unfortunately, because the other con was at the very end of Act 1, I got booted a few times. So that's what caused us, like, we'll just send you an invite. Because we happened to join a game at the same time when we were playing. So we didn't realize you couldn't add. And then when we couldn't, we're like, okay, so we had to exit out both of us. And then go into the...
same act, same
mission, hit join at the same time. And we got into a group like that, which...
Luckily.
Didn't take very long. It's not like we were trying this for an hour or something. We got in relatively quickly. I think within 10 minutes. So it's not a huge deal. But it's just kind of annoying because the features in the game, we just couldn't use it. So I thought that was the biggest
frustrating
con.
For sure.
Another big con is, I think when you're doing the beta, the original 5 characters should have been accessible because they don't let you play the Necromancer. And that's an original character, which I thought, because that's who I was going to play. I'm glad they gave us a new character as the druid, but I thought not having an original character being able to play was kind of a weird thing, and that's what I played Diablo 3 with when the expansion came out, is the Necromancer. That's my main thing, is that. So I didn't get to play an original character, which I thought was kind of weird. 2 acts seems okay, but this isn't a new game that they're doing a beta. I think Diablo 2 is an old game, so for us not to be able to play all 5 acts, I thought was kind of weak as well. Because I would have, even though it doesn't transfer, we should be able to play all 5. I mean, the game is done. This is just a beta test. It's not like they're making new content, just a remaster. That was another thing. I think all 5 acts should have been available. Couple more things. Act 1 I thought was extremely dark, but that does play true to the original. So I can't knock it for transferring over exactly how the original one played. Because number 1 is super dark, number 2 we're out in the light. The only other thing I can mention, which I hope is in the original game, I know it's on the computer, is I couldn't toggle between, or at least I couldn't find it. It might be there, but I couldn't toggle between the old and the new graphics, because I love switching back between it and just kind of seeing it, and that part just wasn't there.
Yeah,
at least on the console version.
I didn't think too much of, but they should have been letting us play the whole thing in beta just to make sure all the bugs and all that stuff instead of stopping it.
That's what I thought they were doing it for. This isn't new material. The game's old. They remastered it.
Right, there's no spoilers.
There's no exactly. This is so I thought that was a little weak. Let us play the whole thing. I mean, we're here to beta test and bug it. Why give us 2 acts and why give us old characters from the original that we can't play? Like, that was the most confusing for me, is why give us a druid class and not the necromancer?
Interesting.
When I want to play the fucking necromancer.
He's a necroman. I also thought maybe the pacing of the game was kind of slow, and I understand that it's a remaster of it, but I thought they could have at least found some way to kind of spruce it up, because we were kind of, I mean, again, I love a good dungeon diver, but there's so many times we're just kind of going through and cleaning out, and I mean, unless you move to the next, like, Act 1 to Act 2 in terms of enemies, it seemed like it was just a lot of, like, copy and paste enemy here and a couple of things. I wish there was a little, maybe they could have added something to kind of make it pop. I don't know if that would be taking something from what, like, diehards would say, no, yes, that's unfair and it's untrue, but we were playing, I mean, it was just Catacomb 1, Catacomb 2, Catacomb 3. I'm like,
I think that's a lot of product of the time too.
Well, I know what I'm saying. I wish they could have added something to make it a little more like, oh, I don't want to say rewarding, but maybe a little more like, oh, my interest is peaked because this is here. So that was one of the big things I thought was a negative, because I think you're hitting all the main topics. My only gripe was, and one of the things we found early, and you can fix it, was they made the
we didn't even realize it.
Yeah, so the attack button, which was A, was also the same button to pick up items. So when you're hitting these people, killing an enemy and items are dropping, as you're hitting, it's at the same time picking up items. So your inventory was getting full fast, and we're looking at it going, well, that's a weird one. But easy fix. All you have to do is go in and rebind it to a different one. Yeah. And but I thought in the beginning, I'm like, that was a really odd choice to do. But I mean, other than that, though, how do you think the game overall ran, and do you think they're sitting on a success and that people are going to be coming back to Diablo 2?
So, with Diablo 2, like I said, it's a little bit of a product of the time. If you are not a hack and slash fan or a returning player, this might not be the original, the one that you want to jump into, because I think as a fan of the game, there's going to be a lot of people returning to it. If you've never played the game, I honestly say probably start with Diablo 3. It's a lot more user-friendly. Like, the main thing, too, with people is, in Diablo, you can respec. You can change your build. You can do a bunch of things. And number 2 didn't have that. So you have one respec. So if you start going in and you want to mess around and play all this stuff, and you
until like post-game.
Yeah, you can only change your spec once, and like that's it. You can start farming some of these things so you can do it more casually in like the harder modes of the game, but it's not as easy friendly as Diablo 3 is. But I do think a lot of people have been waiting for this. There is going to be a huge return to it. I don't think there's going to be a lot of new gamers coming to it because there's other options out there, but I'm going to be one of them.
Yeah, and I think it's extremely worth your time if you are an original fan of it, or if you just kind of mix that hack and slash. And I think the beautiful thing too is, even though there are the extended versions, the entry point for this game is $40. So this isn't a game that's coming out being $60. It's going to take, top cash when you could have got another AAA game. It's a $40 game. So, and if you're sharing it like you can on Xbox or something, split it with a friend. It's a great multiplayer. I thought us playing it was a lot of fun. I thought the fact that we can have 8 people in our server and you could move around and do multiple things at once. It wasn't limited to following a host. I thought was great. So this is the game I know we're going to get, and we've already pre-ordered it, so I know we're going to be playing it together. I think Gino did a great job of pointing out all the good pros and cons, so I don't think there's really much more to dissect there. If you guys have anything else you want to say and you have been playing it, please leave that in the comments if there's something that we missed or if there's something that you caught that maybe we didn't catch the first time around. But moving forward, man, I think Diablo 2 is going to do quite well.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add on that?
I just love that these older games are finally starting to get remastered, because Diablo 2 is one of the greatest games, I think, that has been created. And it's nice to be able to go back and play it with some new content and features.
Yeah, I don't know if I've said this before, but I think there's a subtle difference between movies trying to remake movies and stuff like that, and people being hit or miss with them, where games, it lends itself to the technology. There's no harm in remaking something with 20-year later technology and making it better, you know what I mean? Or remaking it. So
night and day.
Yeah. So if you guys are a fan of that, I would definitely say go check it out. So that is the end of our main story. Gino and I got to play it. Highly recommend it if that's something that's a genre that you like. So let's move into ripping it up. So my riff today, guys, is that there is a Grand Theft Auto Remaster Trilogy in the works. Now, there's been rumor for a long time that they're going to do Grand Theft Auto, but apparently now it's being pretty much confirmed, and this is by Kotaku, who has some inside sources. So I'll read this real quick for you guys, and it goes a little something like this. According to these sources, Rockstar is actively developing remastered versions of Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. All 3 of these games are being remastered using Unreal Engine and will be a mix of new and old graphics. One source who claims to have seen a snippet of the games in action said that the visuals reminded them of a heavily modded version of a classic GTA title. The UI for the games are being updated too, but will retain the same classic style. No details were shared about the gameplay, but Kotaku has been told these remastered titles are trying to stay true to the PS2 era GTA games as much as possible. I mean, this is a lot of interesting news because as great as like GTA 5 was, a lot of people's favorites are still rooted in 3 and Vice City. I know San Andreas had a lot of was very, very successful, but people have been begging to get their hands on GTA 3, which is my favorite, and Vice City, which is most people's and yours, and Vice City, which is most other people's favorite. Like Andrew, I think, is Vice City. Danny, I believe, is Vice City. So I look at it in there's 2 really good reasons here. One is that they're bringing back ones that are most popular, so this is going to sell. I mean, any GTA beginning was going to sell, but these are going to be like bring back the fans that were looking forward to these. The other thing is what it does is it kind of puts a slow damper on people that are arguing like, where's GTA 6? Where's GTA 6? If Rockstar can put out a nice compilation of most people's favorite games remastered, then this slows down that buzz. You know, people aren't yelling for it because they're still making money hand over fist with GTA 5 and GTA, you know, the online service that it has. GTA 5 is still outpacing itself and selling year after year, month after month, and it's insane because it came out so long ago. So they can still continue to make money off of this while now they can entertain the fans that have been looking forward to 3 in Vice City. And what they can also do is test the waters of, because I believe what they also have in works is a remake of Red Dead 1. So, you know, if GTA
Remake?
Remastered of Red Dead. So, you know, if they can put out a couple of these games before they get to GTA 6, which is probably, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, I think it's a good stopper. And there's really no, I would say, downside to this. If you're a GTA fan, you've got more GTA to play.
No, it's a cash cow for them, man. The most excitement of 5 is on there. Like my daughter, she still plays 5 online. And a lot, like I said, a lot of people, like I said, just like Diablo 2, a lot of people's most favorite of these versions are the older versions. So if they know it's a success, bring it back, give us a remaster, they're gonna make cash hand over fist, man.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because I mean, 5 is still going strong for how many years? Years.
It's plugging along.
You know, everything. So this is a great move for them. And it's a great move for the fans because that's what they've been asking for. And we live in a time where remasters seem to be a little more easily accessible.
And in their height. Like, people are like, these, because they're all coming out, especially when you look at 20 Hour Pro Skater, Spyro, Crash, Mass Effect, you know, Diablo's coming. This is coming. Like, we're living in a time where gamers of a certain age can go back and play their loves. And new gamers can go, oh, now I don't have to play it on old graphics. I can play it and it looks good. Because I've been waiting to play GTA 3 with Chatterbox Radio playing with Laszlo in my ear forever. And the fact that it's coming back is just, it's just like that love letter. It's like, hey guys, here's this. And it's not that hard to make remasters now as it was back then. So I'm sure, I would assume, but what would you put a price point this? Do you think this trilogy would come out as a $40 as well? Or do you think since it's X amount of gameplay, it's so far that's what it's supposed to be?
No, I think it'll be 60. They know they can get 60 for it.
Yeah, and they'll probably milk it.
I would assume it's 60.
So, guys, jump down in the comments. Let us know what you think about the trilogy. Which one is your favorite? And guess what you think the price point coming out is going to be. The full article will be in the description. So, yeah. What are you riffing on, my man?
Riffing on, hey, Nintendo's in the courts again, and it's not the first time, and it definitely won't be their last, but I think what's worth talking about is just kind of putting some shine on some facts. So, 2019, Nintendo sued ROM Universe, and more specifically, Matthew Storman for $15 million plus, which isn't their original. Their original suing for was $15 million, and the judge, Consuelo Marshall, finally did a passing on it, and they ended up with $2.1 million. So what ended up happening was he hosted a site, and he did a bunch of Nintendo ROM, which we're all familiar with these sites. There's a ton of them.
Hey, we're all guilty.
He ended up uploading and distributing pirated Nintendo games, but what he was doing was, when you could download games, he would also sell a premium package. So say, for example, you went to the site and as a non-customer and you could do 2 sites, but then you could do a $20 package and then you could download 5, and a $30 a premium package you can download unlimited. So basically he was selling these memberships for these games, which is definitely illegal. You know, you can't do that.
Yeah, they can frown upon the emulators, but when you start making cash on a package deal that they're not getting a piece of
on old licensed games. So the original 15 million kind of broke down like this, because these numbers get a little stupid. So they were doing copyright infringements and trademark infringements, and the original one was 90,000 per 49 copyright infringements, which ended up being 4.4 million, and then 400,000 times 29 trademarks, which ended up being 11.6 million. So this happened in 2019, and the actual site was able to stay up until the actual court dismissal happened in 2020, which so it just recently happened. Just a super, to actually get paid out on something like that, the judge decided it.
That's the American dream, baby.
Dude, it is. So I'm going to read a little bit of things, because there's a little bit more to this. I'm going to read you an article. Nintendo leans on Storman's inability to pay the damages. Because what ended up happening is, even though he ended up owing $2.1 million, he only had to pay $50 a month.
Because he was unemployed at the time, right?
Yeah, and back pay. So Storman's inability to pay the damages as needed to place a permanent injunction, because Nintendo wanted to place a permanent injunction on him, which means they cannot operate again at all. But the judge was a little more lenient on that. But the failure to make even the modest $50 payment and the amount that he proposed and agreed to demonstrates that Nintendo has no adequate remedy at law for defendants' past or future infringement, and underscores the need for a permanent injunction. Nintendo officially won the case on May 26th and filed the request for an injunction just over a month later on June 29th. That would mean Storman has likely missed one damages payment so far. It's likely that Nintendo potentially expected this, considering it filed the injunction a month and 3 days after it won the original case. So, it's just interesting, because these ROM sites, there's a million of them. But for one to actually get hit hard, $2 million, the fact that he only got to pay $50 a month and then didn't pay it, and now he's getting injunction.
That's mind-blowing.
It's just kind of interesting to see all that kind of stuff happen. The other thing I looked up is the U.S. Copyright Office said they only really go after these big ROM sites that do it. So as an individual, they don't really go after people who are just downloading them, but they're going after the people who are hosting them and making
and the most
money.
successful one.
And the most successful, because it was stated that he was making like $36,000 a month on these premium memberships, which is why let's flag Nintendo and let's get it, because if they're not making money off their ROMs, no one's making money off their ROMs. So I don't know. Kind of crazy. He got hit hard. They asked for the max. They always do. Judge said, hey, $2.1 million, $50 payments a month. He still didn't pay him.
You know what? I'm a little light on scratch this month.
It's just I don't know, just an interesting case that kind of popped up in the...
Yeah, I was talking to Gino, and I thought maybe it was an interesting point that now they're hitting it harder than ever, was the fact that the Steam Deck is, I believe some people are having it, I believe it's out, or it's coming in mass soon, is they had to kind of shut down these emulators because they don't want somebody, or at least my kind of, interpretation would be like, why would you want another handheld that can run your games better than you out in the wild, and then have an easy access to put Mario games on Steam Deck and not on a Nintendo Switch? So I know Nintendo's kind of always been the big stickler in shutting down these things.
Out of everyone, it's
because they just don't want it
it
out in the wild. But I would think now more than ever was the time that they were like, hey, this has to stop now. Yeah. But it's insane, man. And the fact that this guy, we think he maybe have missed a $50 payment, unless he knows something we don't know, and maybe that was, he needed it to move
going
forward.
off of what we have. It's just, as a fan, I like downloading ROMs and stuff. There's games that don't sell anymore, so to have access to them is one thing. But there is a very legal precedent for this. They are selling intellectual properties and stuff. So I get both sides of it. But man, if it's a game from 1987, they don't sell anymore, that you can download. I get it, but hey, Nintendo won't have it.
Hey, I get it, and this guy got it. So. Guys, leave us down your thoughts and opinions on what Nintendo's been doing it, or any other inside knowledge you might have. So let's move into questions of the week, and this is where you guys can jump in the comments down below and leave us a question about anything and everything, and we'll do our best to answer it. And first question comes from Chris Trejo, and he writes, what's an underrated movie from your childhood you would say people to check out? Gino and I generally would say Three Ninjas. It's a movie that we loved as kids. We've got tattoos of it. Great movie, and I believe we've mentioned it on the show before. So, with a different answer in mind, what was yours?
We owned a lot of movies, and I think we were a lot of mainstream stuff, so we tried to go off topic that people maybe didn't see, and I think a movie that completely holds up, that I actually own still, is Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue. If you are not familiar with this, it's very blunt in what it's trying to do. It's an anti-drug campaign from the Bush administration against smoking marijuana. But the good part about the movie is they add any cartoon that you watch, there was a character in it.
It's almost like a Justice League of it.
They had the Ninja Turtles, they had Alf, they had Garfield, they had Alvin and the Chipmunks,
Muppets.
So as a kid, you see all these characters that you love in this movie. The concept is no drug. They have Bugs Bunny and stuff.
Slimer
from Ghostbusters. I mean, they go through the story of this kid who gets addicted. Gets addicted to smoking, and his sister's trying to help him out. But then all these cartoons start coming to life and helping them and guiding them. And there's this little smoke guy that's in his ear trying to face him the other way. But dude, I actually watch it. I try and watch it every year because I own it. But man, it's such a good movie, and you have such a feel good experience with it because all these characters are coming back. That I think if you've never watched it, give it a watch. It's definitely worth your time. It's not.
You can watch it where?
Where can you watch it?
On YouTube. You can jump on YouTube and the full thing's there. We always thought it was a movie. We always thought it was like an hour because we had it on a VHS tape. And it's weird to think that it's only 30 minutes.
You want me to mail them out? Yeah, I have a VHS tape. But you can actually watch it on YouTube. It's in 4 different parts. I think I actually uploaded it into Last Call 1, so it should be in the channel. But yeah, it's on YouTube for free. Break it out in 4 parts. Definitely give it a watch.
Nice. I would say one of the other movies that we had that I don't know if a lot of people know, but if you had it, you know, was Indian in the Cupboard. Now, right off the bat, this is not a PC labeled correctly film, right? Indian in the Cupboard is maybe come off as a little offensive to anybody, but again, you got to remember this is like 1990.
You should not mess with magic. You do not understand.
And the guy actually did it. I believe his name is Lightfoot.
Oh no, he's an actual.
He is. He was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yeah. I think it was Nightwolf. But that aside, it's a very, at least in my memory, it is a fine movie. It kind of predates what what's the movie with Robin Williams where there's Night at the Museum, where kind of these characters come alive. It was kind of like that mixed with almost like Small Soldiers. This boy gets a cupboard, and when he puts his toys in it, he opens it back up, and they're not just toys that came alive. They're people from they're living in another life. The Native American that comes out of it is literally living in a time frame, and he wakes, and now he's in this new world. So that premise, I don't know if it's based off a book. I think it might have been.
There's a book. I don't know what came first, but usually it's probably
but that premise is extremely interesting. You know what I mean? It's not Woody and Buzz Lightyear where they're toys that came real or that were always real. It's literally like somebody would have put a toy of you in there, and now next thing you know, you're in there, and he kind of, the way I think, if I'm remembering right, it was like a dream. He'd be in a dream state. And it kind of gets into this point where the kids kind of take advantage of it. They start putting in like a cowboy, and there's that happens.
He puts in a bunch of toys.
He puts in like Darth Vader,
fucking fighting and stuff.
Yeah, so it was really interesting, and it stands out because I remember we had the VHS tape, and it actually closed and locked, and it came with a key.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Shit!
And you had to put the key in the VHS box, click it, and it would open up, and it would have the VHS tape and a little Indian in the Cupboard toy that was in it.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
I would say if you had to check a movie out, you can, and that movie you can find on Hulu and Paramount Plus. So if you have those subscriptions, I would say check it out. But yeah, you remember that box?
Heck yeah! Oh, dude, now I do, because I remember always, because we used to have that VHS movie holder, and it would be on there. It was a big old thick one, and then when you do it pop. It would look good. And I think it came with something else, too.
I just remember the toy. I remember him. He would be in the top, and it would be like a pop-out.
Like arched over.
Yeah, it may have came with like something. Oh, and the key, obviously. So.
Oh, you still have the key?
I'm lucky I can find the toy. So our final question. And guys, thank you for the question, Chris. And leave your movie recommendations down below. But the final question comes from Tamsden Sawyer. And they write, I'm interested in playing D&D, which is Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm hoping you can point me in the right direction. So. In the past, we've talked about, like, what are you up to? I think I've mentioned Dungeons & Dragons a few times.
Once or twice.
And I would say this. Start with, check your local stores out. Because as guilty as I am of not going to mine as often as I would like to. I mean, shout out to the Wasteland and Tim and Jeffrey. Like, that's where you should start. You should look for that small community in your town to see if you can be a part of it, make some friends, and get on a schedule. Now, if you're in a place that you don't have that, I'm not sure how old you would be. To just check with your friends and see if anybody wants to play a tabletop adventure, because outside of buying the hardcover books that can go anywhere from like 40 to 50 and up, there's a lot of PDF files you can get online that are generally free, or you can buy around $20. So it's kind of intimidating when you look at all the books and stuff you would need and the maps and all this stuff. But nowadays, even go to Dungeons & Dragons Online, like a lot of that stuff, they'll give you for free to get you started. The third thing I would say, which would be the biggest thing since the pandemic hit, is there's an online site called Roll20. I'm on it. I've been a member there for a while. You can actually get into these chats, and people will post games and that they're looking for players, and you can ask that you're looking to play a game. So as long as you've got, a pretty adequate tablet or a laptop, you can play online, and that's what a lot of people have been doing. Get a laptop, find a group, because a lot of these guys will post on there, Monday games at 9 and Tuesday games at 5. So you can find something that literally fits your schedule and jump on there and do it video or non-video, but at least you can keep playing. So, I don't know, is there any other way you would say to kind of start them out? I mean, you can start playing Magic the Gathering and play the D&D and get familiar with characters.
Now, the other way I would say, too, is the more way that I go, because I would love to play a tabletop version and stuff. Kids, everything kind of prevents you, is there's a ton of good games that are very Dungeons & Dragons. Pillars of Eternity is great. Neverwinter Nights is great. I mean, there is games based on it. So if you have a console and you don't have a shop, you don't have anybody you can play with, you can. And Baldur's Gate Remastered, I mean, that just came out. I mean, there's games that are very rooted into D&D, and that have stat progression and character development, and all the moves you're picking are straight from the book. I think that'll give you a good taste of it if the other options aren't available.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think those are some good solid choices to at least get your feet wet, or at least give you a roadmap on how to get started and where you can at least start looking. So thank you for the question, and I hope when you do find something to play, let us know, and we'll read the question and see how you are. So I would normally get to the point, because last week Andrew and I mentioned that we were going to start doing a new giveaway, which was going to be for an Xbox Series X. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, Andrew has been occupied with something. We haven't had a lot of time to get together and iron out the details. So unfortunately, this episode, we don't have the layout on how the giveaway will work, how long it's going to run, and how to enter. So next episode. I was going to say something. Next episode. I'm like, that was a show. You want to show Afternoon to you was my morning. So the next episode, by then, Andrew and I should be able to get together and iron out all the details and have that for you guys on episode 102. But with that being said, guys, super appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. And that is the end of this week's episode. So until next time, my name is Craig Paralis. That is Gino Paralis. Cheers.
I think we liked all the classics.
Like what?
I don't know. Like your basic Disney library, I think was pretty good.
Yeah, but those are going to be movies like everyone watches as a kid. Like I'm talking. I was trying to think of like
how outside the box were we?
I don't know.
We only had Video King.
I liked I think the Cartoon All Stars and the Indian in the Cupboard are like solid hits, but it's weird that you think Surf Ninjas is trash. Well, because I'd love to go back and rewatch that.
In my mind, I just remember like the Game Gear thing being really cool. What the fuck's his name?
From what?
Leslie Neeson or the bad guy?
Isn't it Dennis Hopper? No, I'm thinking of Waterworld. Waterworld.
The white-haired funny guy, but he plays.
I remember being. Is it Leslie Nielsen?
I think it is, but don't quote me.
And you can quote him.
When I went at Hastings, I bought the Batman, Adam.
The Batman like 66 or whatever it was. The Batman the movie, the old Adam West one.
Adam West and Burt Ward.
So that one's still good with the shark. Like, how does the shark not rip off his leg?
It's, I don't know. As an adult, I can watch it and I can think of it like it's a, like when you see the.
That's Leslie Nielsen, all right. Colonel Chi.
It looks like a comic book movie, and I can get past it, but like
because it's campy.
Surf Ninjas was just more cheese than camp.
Did you even get to the point where you blocked the bullets with the sword?
I got to the part right where he was like becoming a ninja.
Okay.
liked it. I'm like, you know, just I don't know. It was okay. It just wasn't what I was remember. Where if I watched Three Ninjas, that movie was gold. Gold, Jerry.